It would mean the UK could trade without tariffs on goods within the EU, but would not be able to strike independent trade deals. Our political correspondent Vicky Young has more.
Stitching together a deal that will last, that's Theresa May's Brexit challenge. This factory in Dudley exports furniture, and businesses across the country want to know how they'll be trading with the EU after we exit. The customs union allows goods to be shipped all around the EU with no taxes, known as tariffs. But it stops us negotiating free trade deals with other countries. So the Prime Minister insists we need a new arrangement.
Coming out of the customs union means that we'll be free to have those deals that suit the United Kingdom. But I also recognise the importance for businesses like this of being able to have as frictionless a border as possible into the European Union. We've put forward proposals that will deliver that frictionless border and enable us to do trade deals around the rest of the world.
This visit was part of the Conservatives' local election campaigning. But Theresa May's being dragged back into the Brexit row over trade, and some businesses don't like it.
Though it is unrealistic, we don't expect all of the answers. This is a negotiation. What we do expect is that the evidence is listened to and that as much information is shared as possible. And I think this is just the next stage of these discussions, and we urge the Prime Minister and the whole government to listen to business and to follow the evidence.
She's under pressure to explain how her plan fits in with the promise not to create a new physical border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Last week, peers defeated the government on Brexit, and some Conservative MPs still want answers.
No Conservative, I think no MP, comes in to vote against their party leader. But this is a very important issue, and I think whether we get it right, and I hope that discussions that the Cabinet are having to make sure we don't create problems with a hard border in Ireland or for British manufacturers, I hope we'll be able to support, but I think there are more discussions to be had before we can say how any vote is going to go.
Today's row reflects a broader argument in the Conservative Party about how close the UK will stay to the EU after Brexit. Theresa May has set out her plans, but Parliament will have its say too. And any suggestion the government is backsliding and preparing to stay in the customs union infuriates Brexiteers.
What I think that we all need to do as politicians is to remember what the vote was back in 2016. And the vote was to leave the European Union, which means leaving the single market and leaving the customs union as well, because they're all elements of EU membership. And clearly we have to address the issue of frictionless trade at the borders.
Parliament doesn't yet seem convinced that the government's plans for Brexit will work in practice. With crucial votes maybe as soon as next month, Theresa May still has some explaining to do. Vicky Young, BBC News, Westminster.
Protesters have attempted to storm the Merseyside hospital where the terminally ill toddler Alfie Evans is being treated. They were reacting to an announcement by the European Court of Human Rights that it would not be intervening to prevent his life support being withdrawn. Around 200 demonstrators gathered outside the hospital chanting, "Save Alfie Evans." The sole surviving suspect in the 2015 Islamist attacks in Paris, which left 162 people dead, has been sentenced to 20 years in prison for the gun battle with police that led to his arrest in Belgium. Salah Abdeslam was convicted after being found guilty of the attempted murder of police officers in the Brussels shootout. Abdeslam is currently in custody in France, where it's expected he'll stand trial in 2020 for his role in the Paris attacks. A memorial service marking 25 years since the racist murder of black teenager Stephen Lawrence has taken place in London. Prince Harry and his fiancée Meghan Markle attended the service, where they met the murdered teenager's mother, Doreen Lawrence, now a peer sitting in the Lords. And the government announced that from now on, a national commemoration of Stephen Lawrence will take place every year on April the 22nd. Our royal correspondent Nicholas Witcher reports.
It wasn't the moment for royal baby remarks. This was something more solemn, the remembrance of a life cut short and a murder which still has an impact a quarter of a century after it occurred. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who's known racism in her life, took their seats for the memorial service to Stephen Lawrence. Across the aisle was Stephen's mother Doreen and his younger brother Stuart. Prince Harry read a message from his father, the Prince of Wales, paying tribute to the family's efforts to honour Stephen's memory.
As you remember Stephen and mourn what has been lost, it is my special hope that you might all find some comfort in knowing just how much there is to be thankful for in Stephen's life and in all that it has inspired. Thank you.
And that life and what it has inspired will henceforth be remembered every year on the anniversary of his death. The Prime Minister announced that after consultation with his family, the 22nd of April would become Stephen Lawrence Day. For a family which has endured so much from Stephen's brutal, senseless murder and the flawed early stages of the police inquiry, the news that there will be an annual commemoration of his life was welcomed. Stephen's father Neville said it represented what they had been striving for years to achieve. Our son's memory will be enshrined in history, he said. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News.
The time has just gone 6:15. Our top story this evening. The Duke and Duchess of Cambridge show off the new addition to their family, a baby boy born this morning. And coming up, the magic of Mo Salah as Liverpool prepare for their Champions League semi-final.
Coming up on Sports Day in the next 15 minutes on BBC News, Mo Salah wins the PFA Player of the Year award, and the Liverpool striker says he's now got his eyes on the Champions League trophy as well.
The personal finance campaigner Martin Lewis is suing Facebook for defamation. Mr. Lewis, the founder of MoneySavingExpert.com, claims the social media giant has published more than 50 fake adverts using his name and face. Facebook say they don't allow false or misleading ads, but Mr. Lewis claims the ads are often left up for days or weeks once they've been reported. Here's our media editor, Amol Rajan.
Over 15 years, Martin Lewis has become one of Britain's most formidable consumer champions. He took on banks and utility companies and won. Now he is turning to Facebook. This is why. Over the past year, at least 50 fake adverts bearing his face have appeared on Facebook. They are scams. Lewis doesn't do ads. He is suing Facebook for defamation and will give any damages to charity.
I've had over a year of regular, repeated, continued fake adverts with my face on them, and I report them to Facebook, and if I'm lucky, after a couple of weeks they take them down, and then the next day they launch a new one, and they've put the onus on me to stop them. Well, I'm not here to police Facebook or pay people to police Facebook. Facebook needs to police Facebook, and the only legal route I've got is defamation, so I'm taking it.
Facebook declined to be interviewed. In a statement, the company said it does not allow adverts which are misleading or false, and that Lewis had been told any offending ads will be removed. Facebook's business model is based on the idea that it is a platform and not a publisher. It's funded almost entirely by advertising, but the sheer scale of the social network means that it's virtually impossible to police all the ads that it carries. So if this case punishes the company for reputational damage, the implications could be catastrophic for them. Many people are duped by fake online ads, whether on Facebook or elsewhere. They include Malcolm Richards from Newport. A Bitcoin ad enticed him to part with £250. He ended up losing £39,000.
The emotional fallout from that, because my wife didn't know I was doing it, so I had to tell her and my family what I'd done. To say it was embarrassing is an understatement. I was upset. I lost a stone in weight.
One tech public policy thinker who has worked at both Facebook and Google believes the social network is trying to get its house in order.
One solution here might be more regulation in order to ensure that people's images and rights are not abused in this way. But in order to make that work, technological solutions need to be found. But they exist already. They're used in music rights, in video rights already.
Facebook has faced a barrage of negative headlines in recent months. Martin Lewis is evidently determined to add to their woes. Amol Rajan, BBC News.
An upgrade by TSB to its banking systems over the weekend has caused chaos for customers. Some are still having problems today, worried about being able to pay bills or even get cash to pay for essentials. Many people have complained of being unable to access their money. One customer reported being able to access another's account, complete with all the confidential transaction details. The body of a Scottish man who went missing on his brother's stag do is believed to have been found in a river in Hamburg. 29-year-old Liam Colgan, who was from Inverness, disappeared in the early hours of February the 10th. It's believed Mr. Colgan's driving licence was found in his pocket. The organisers of the London Marathon have confirmed that a 29-year-old who reached the semi-finals of MasterChef The Professionals collapsed and died during yesterday's race. Matt Campbell had completed the Manchester Marathon early this month in under 3 hours. As our sports correspondent Andy Swiss reports, he was running in memory of his father.
It is a day when so many compete for so many causes, but for all the 40,000 finishers yesterday, one race ended in tragedy.
For a place in finals week,
Matt Campbell was one of Britain's most talented young chefs.
So I wanted to be a dish that you're not going to miss the sugar, you're not going to miss the butter, but we'll have to wait and see then.
Just 4 months ago, he appeared on MasterChef The Professionals. He was also a keen runner, here alongside his brother and his father Martin, who died in 2016. Matt began racing in his memory. 2 weeks ago, he completed the Manchester Marathon, but yesterday he collapsed near the 22-mile mark and died later in hospital. Despite the conditions, his death is not thought to be heat-related.
We really don't want to speculate what was the cause of his death. We don't know. An autopsy will be carried out, and as a result of that autopsy, we will find out. And as I say, our thoughts are just with his family and friends at the moment and giving them